Thank you, YoNasDa, for being here. So
Having
excited
me.
to have this conversation with you. So we have a similar background that I also started in entertainment, but I really would like to know more if you could tell us a bit more about your background and how you really became involved in social impact and activism.
Yes. Can everyone hear me okay? Apatu Washte. My name is YoNasDa Lonewolf. I am a proud enrolled tribal member of the Ogallala Lakota Nation from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. And my mother was full-blood Ogallala Lakota from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I have a medallion of her, as a matter of fact. YoNasDa Lonewolf, Wakia Luthawi, which means Red Thunder Woman. And my spiritual name is Wachakpi Olawanwi, which means Star Song Woman. And my father is Black from Brooklyn, New York. I was born in this movement. I was born during the longest walk, which was a protest from Alcatraz, San Francisco to Washington, D.C. in 1978. Yeah, don't do the math. Yeah, no, I'm 44.
You look great.
Thank you. But during that time, their Native Americans or anyone could not pray publicly. How many of you all in here burn sage? Yes, before 1978, you could not burn sage, you will go to jail. And because of the American Indian movement of people like Russell Means, Dennis Banks, my mother, YoNasDa Lonewolf, was doing all the PR work. But because of these amazing American Indian movement, and they linked with the Black Panthers and the Rainbow Coalition and the Chicano movement, the Brown Berets, and so many people from the Bay Area, and they walked all the way to Washington, D.C. in order for them to pass the Freedom of Religious Act. And that's the reason why we're able to be free with our religion. And so my mother I was in my mother's womb during that time. And she had me at Howard University in Washington, D.C. So when they got to Washington, D.C. On April 7th, 1978 is when I was born. So I was literally born in the movement. Yes, I'm an Aries. So we're going to turn up in here if anyone knows about Aries. But so I was literally born with my fist up. I was born in an environment with nothing but people like Dolores Hertha, and Jesse Jackson, El Sharpton, Cesar Chavez. You know, I was in a room with all these amazing people that we all look in history books. And I was fortunate to be just a little one like my son over here and just listening in and seeing how they're going to plan the future and the movement and everything. I would say that everyone gets to a point in their life where they are activated. An activist is a person that becomes activated off of something, something that you're like, I have to do something. And for me, it was when I was in third grade. It was Christopher Columbus Day. And we had to paint, color Christopher Columbus. And so I colored my Christopher Columbus with horns up here and red face. And my teacher was like, no, you cannot put this on the wall. And I protested, and I said, you should. And I said, because the real history of Christopher Columbus, my people was here way before he even so-called discovered it. I was in third grade, mind you. And I said, he did not discover America. And she was like, I'm calling your mother. So my mother came and protested and said, so the teacher ended up putting my Christopher Columbus on the bottom of the wall where no one could really see. But the thing, that was the first time. But it was the first time that I felt that I could speak my truth, and I could speak truth to power. And I had support of my mother that was like, yes, you could speak your truth to power. And ever since then, I have been. The first time where I actually kind of got motivated to do something even further than that was I was in high school in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and we was the last state to have the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday. And this was in the 90s. And it was normal for me to go to a school surrounded around skinheads. Skinheads was huge in the 90s. Anyone know about skinheads? They were like a younger version of a new generation of the KKK. Now they are what? Tiki tortures? Oh yeah, tiki, they have the tiki torches now. But back then it was in the 90s, they were skinheads. And so one of the kids at my school wrote the N-word on my locker. And I went and told my friends, and it ended up turning to a riot at my school, at Deer Valley High School in Phoenix, Arizona. NBC, the Today Show, reached out to me. And I was 16 at the time.
Wow.
And they said, we want to be, we're doing a whole series called Black, White, and Angry. And so they followed me for a week. And they wanted to figure out a way that how can we be able to have a conversation with people from all walks of life. And my school supported this. And it was the first time of my organizing of how can we be able to be in a room with skinheads, with, we had all these, we had the jocks, the cheerleaders, those that were cowboys, cowgirls, the so-called gangsters, Mexicans, all of us was in this room. And we for us to have a better understanding of one another. And from that, the skinhead that wrote the N-word on my locker, he ended up denouncing himself as a skinhead.
Awesome.
And as a matter of fact, believe today he's married to a Mexican girl. That just goes to show of that was the first of my organizing of how to be able to bring people from all walks of life to come into a space, and how can we be able to focus more on our similarities than our differences.
Indeed. Thank you for sharing that. And so you do such a great job really honoring both your mother and your father's legacies. Could you speak to a little bit more on how Afro-Indigenous alliances really helped justice movements and civil rights movements, and even today, how we can strengthen those relationships to really move forward with social impact and justice for our communities?
If you look at me, a lot of people like, she's a Black girl. Mm-hmm. And now that my hair is short and I'm blonde now, this is a whole nother story, but yeah. But my mother, me coming from the womb of my mother, mm-hmm. my Native American mother, mm-hmm. I could not deny her.
Right.
And I could not deny my Black father. Right. My mother did an amazing job as a single mother to make sure that my brother and I was learning about who we are as Lakota people. And who our people are, that we come from the people of the chiefs of Crazy Horse, of Sitting Bull, of Red Cloud. We come from these great plains of the Badlands, and so she in the Hesapa Black Hills. And so she wanted to make sure that we know who we are. But then on top of it, she said, okay, we're in Arizona, you're gonna learn about the Dene people. My name, YoNasDa, is in Dene, which is the Navajo, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. and it means the squash blossom. Oh, wow. So she was like, you're gonna learn about the Dene people, you're gonna learn about the Hopis, the Apaches, mm-hmm. the Havasupais, and all of the various tribes in Arizona. Then we're gonna expand, and then you're gonna learn about all the tribes on the East Coast and the West Coast, and then we're gonna go past this so-called border, mm-hmm. and you're gonna learn about the people of Mexico and down to South America. And then she was like, and all the tribes there, then we're going to go to Africa. So she would take, I'm not literally go to Africa, but she was like, you're going to learn about all the tribes of Africa. And she brought so much, a beautiful matriarch of women around me that was teaching me. Because see, my mother couldn't teach me how to be a Black woman. Right. She could only teach me how to be a Native American woman and her experiences. So she made sure that I was around Black women that could also empower me and educate me and talk about hair.
Right.
So every Saturday I was in a Black salon right. to learn how to be able to do my hair, because my mother did not know my hair was down to here, and like right. Like my sister right here, my hair looked just like yours. You probably know this story very well when you're, having to handle, a
Yeah.
mixture type of hair. And so my mother wanted to make sure. So I used to fancy dance, which is the powwow, fancy shawl dancing. Anyone been to a powwow or saw fancy? So you could just Google it, but fancy shawl dancing. And I used to do that.
Oh,
And then I also used to African dance. And so she wanted to make sure that I had a beautiful balance. Now, when I was expanding and organizing, when I would go into Native American communities, yes, I dealt with prejudice. Yes, I dealt with that. I was called the N-word when I was at a powwow grounds, and I was so happy to be with my fancy shawl, and I'm dancing, and it was that elder, a Native American elder woman. She said, "Get that in girl off them grounds. Whose daughter is that?" And my mother just was like, she went off on her. But the thing is that I also dealt with that, but I also dealt with it on my Black side as well. That's not your mother. You don't look like her. You must be adopted, and my mother constantly having to prove to everyone, this is my daughter. This is who she is. But she constantly made sure that I had this beautiful balance. And I always thought I was the only Native American and Black person in the world. I literally did, because growing up in Arizona, anyone been to Arizona? A couple of you all, okay. Have y'all seen a lot of Black people in Arizona? Exactly. So imagine on a reservation in Arizona, you're not going to see a lot of Black Native children, or people out there. So I really literally felt that I was the only one there until my mother gave me a book called Black Indians by William Katz, who ended up becoming a great friend of mine. I suggest everyone read that book. It's called Black Indians by William Katz. And I read this book and I was just like, oh my God, I see myself. There was so many Black Indians that was from the region that we're on right now, the Muskogee, Cherokee Creek land that we're on right now. It was so many Black people and Black Indians that joined with the 5 civilized tribes, which is the Seminole, the Creek, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Cherokee. And so they would connect with these tribes, whether they were these tribes, in order for them to be civilized, they bought the enslaved or slaves, African slaves, or where they were communing and having family with them. Whatever the situation was, it was beautiful to see that there was so many Black Indians. And I learned this history. And I was like, oh my God, I see myself. And that's when I began to become more empowered. Now, being in the space, I was in Standing Rock. Anyone heard of Standing Rock or Dakota Access Pipeline? I know my brother Marcus Coleman. I want to give him an acknowledgement real quick. Marcus Coleman was the first. He is like a mentor to me here in Georgia. And when I came here to Georgia, it's important, even though I'm not from here, it's important when you're organizing to connect with the people that's from here. And Marcus is from Georgia, born, bred Georgia, used to work for L Sharpton. He started the National Action Network chapter here in Georgia. So he's like a mentor to me. So I want you all to give a round of applause for Marcus. So my point, what was the last thing I said?
You were talking about the natives and the Africans coming together and
Standing Rock.
Yeah, Standing Rock.
So, okay, the Dakota Access Pipeline was a pipeline that was being built along the Missouri River in 2016. And if that oil pipeline was going to be built along the Missouri River, how many of you all know that pipelines break? Right, we've had many pipelines break here in Georgia, as a matter of fact, and they always seem to want to put it next to water.
Right.
Because water and oil just happens to mix.
Right.
I don't know. It doesn't mix. I'm just playing. But so it doesn't mix, and it ruins our water, and the cleanup of it is horrible. So they was building this oil pipeline along the Missouri River, which was going to affect Georgia as well. Yep. And it was going to affect the 200 rivers that's attached to the Missouri River. And so Standing Rock, Hunkpapa, is my sister tribe. And they called me and they said, sister, we need your help. We need to be able to get non-natives up here to Standing Rock to be able to fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline, to protest. So that's exactly what we did. And I organized. And so when we're talking about Black alliances, it was very difficult to tell Black people to come to North Dakota
In the wintertime.
before the winter time, but still come to, there was like, do I need a passport
Oh,
to go to Standing Rock? I got that question from everyone.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it was so difficult to have to explain that that fighting for our water rights is a human right. And to be able to get non-natives, especially within the Black community where we fight so much against police brutality and social justice, to say this is also a fight for us as well, is our human rights, which is water. We need water. And so in Standing Rock, we would say Mini Wachoni, which is water is life. And that was what we would say, Mini Wachoni, water is life. So it was Labor Day. I went in front of a bulldozer and I went viral. I went in front of a bulldozer because Obama told them not to build this oil pipeline. And I went in front of a bulldozer and I said, this is our land. And I was just, and from that, and everyone was getting, like, now Standing Rock is getting attention, and everyone is coming. Reverend Jesse Jackson came, Taboo from Black Eyed Peas. I had Matt McGorry, who's an amazing ally. He's an actor on How to Get Away with Murder. Kendrick Sampson, he's also an amazing actor. Shailene Willie, is it Willie or Hully? Willie, yeah, the actress. Willie, yeah. Shailene was there. Mark Ruffalo, Leonardo DiCaprio. We had so many amazing people that came up to Standing Rock. While we was in Standing Rock, which kind of segues to my hair for a second.
Okay.
While we was in Standing Rock, they sprayed so many chemicals. We was faced with the government and the funders. This was Chase. This is SunTrust. This is Name the Bank. They funded the militarization of abuse that they did on us, and we had no weapons. All we had was prayers and our songs. And we would go up against the militarized police and we would just say Mini Wachoni and sing our songs and say water is life. And they would face us with water cannons. This is in 2016. They would face us with tear gas. They would have a plane that would circle our camp and spray, what they kill crops with. They would spray that over us, and this is all reported. We were staying on land that had over 70,000 pounds of Rosol. Anyone heard of Rosol? You killed prairie dogs with it.
Oh my God.
The EPA told Dakota Access Pipeline, you have to clean this up for your workers and for everyone that's going to be here, and they never did. Today, it's over 90 of us that have cancer. I have stage 4 lung cancer. So I'm battling lung cancer. I found out in 2020, May 29th, 2020, is when I found out I have stage 4 lung cancer, which is why I'm short and blonde. Thank you. And but it's so much abuse and so much what they did to us, and it's all of us. But the win is that they didn't build the pipeline. We won in the Supreme Court. There is no Dakota Access Pipeline that's going to be built on treaty land or any of the lands because they saw that it was so faulty. They was rushing it and everything. In this fight, in activism, when I talked about this, always going to be a point in your life where you're going to have to make a decision on what you're willing to fight for. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's your baby, whatever it is, you're going to make a decision in your life on what you're willing to fight for. And there is a sacrifice with that. I have no regrets of this sacrifice. I have over 200 cancer tumor cells in both of my lungs, and my oxygen is at 100. I've been on a targeted therapy chemo pill, and thank God for science today, on on cancer, but 3 years I'm on it. And today I fight for my joy. I fight for my peace. Every day I fight for my happiness. I'm like drama free, seriously. And I fight for him. And I also fight for my other son to make sure that I continue to be here for them, because the baton is left to him and my other son and all the mentees that I happen to mentor.
Wow, so powerful. And I know I appreciate your work and your strength and just an encouragement to me, just as you just continue and keep fighting in the midst of all the things you have endured. And you've talked about the sacrifice and the challenges, but we know this work takes funding. This work, you're a mother, you have a life to live, you have to eat. Yeah. And so could you speak a little bit more, because with the Georgia Social Impact, we really focus on impact investing. Could you talk a little bit about maybe the fundraising challenges you've had in this work and how you feel like impact investing could really help our most vulnerable communities be self-sufficient and have access to capital and economic development in our communities?
You know, like I said, we're all going to make a decision on what you're willing to fight for, to be an activist, to activate yourself. A lot of times we don't know about how to do grants. Mm-hmm. Or how to fundraise. We really don't. We're just out there. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult. Mm-hmm. It really is. A lot of the grassroots organizers, especially here in Georgia, the ones that's really in the mud, that we say, or really in the community, mm-hmm. they're not with an organization. Mm-hmm. They're not with the ones that you happen to, especially in 2020, when everyone was like, where can I donate? Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. I know the founders of Black Lives Matter. I haven't got anything. Have you got anything, Marcus? No, ma'am. Okay. Yeah. All right. A lot of money went to them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of money went to a lot of big organizations that reaped off of the benefits of people like myself and Marcus and so many other, Markina. I can name so many people that you probably haven't even heard of, that did amazing work here locally in Georgia, that you all are like, wow. The mayor she just signed the, what was that she did for us? The Obama Policing Act. No one know that was us that had the former Mayor Keisha Bottoms do an executive order on the Obama Policing Act. So everyone's like, oh, they're shouting Black Lives Matter, so let's go ahead and donate to Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. But the Black Lives Matter organization and Black Lives Matter, the movement, is totally two separate things. So I think it's important to be able to try to research and to know who is in your community. We're all in downtown. Is this downtown Atlanta, Midtown? I'm in McDonough, so all this is downtown. But the thing is that there is people that is out here every single night or every weekend feeding our unhoused friends. And they're not with organizations. So even when you see that, find out like, hey, well, how can I help you? How can I be able to support you? You know, it's really important, because I think a lot of times, so with that being said, you know, fundraising is hard. Mm-hmm. The first time I did a major fundraise, and I was surprised, it was the second one, which was the most successful, in 2016, right before Standing Rock, Flint. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Flint still don't have clean water. They still, oh my goodness. It's sad. My friend called me and said, my niece is in the hospital for lead poisoning. And I said, huh? Because I didn't know what was happening. And I was like, lead poisoning? And he was like, yeah, it's in the water. And I said, in the water? He said, in Flint. And I'm like, he said, I need help, sis. I need you to help us. And I'm like, how do I help this? It's just little old me. How do I help this? And so I went up to Flint, and I went to go meet with the mayor of Flint. And I go into that office, that building. And I went to the bathroom, and I wanted to wash my hands, and I see a big sign with tape all over it. It says, "Do not use this water." And it says, "Use bottled water." And it was all of these cans and bottled water to the right. And this is in a government building. And it had a sign. And I immediately was like, oh my God, imagine the mothers and fathers that have all these children that's living in the house with no signs. And these children, it's automatic. You go wash your hands.
Right.
It's automatic to go to the faucet all the time. Who wants to use a bottled water for that? Who can be able to bathe in bottled water? We were sending so much Nestle bottled water, which the governor ended up benefiting from, as a matter of fact, but so much water bottled water to Flint. So I said, there has to be water filtration systems that take the lead out. Right. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mobilize cities all over the world. So within 2 months, I mobilized 56 cities globally to do an event called Hip Hop for Flint. The hip hop, the number 4 Flint. You can look up the hashtag and you'll see everything. But what I did was, it was fundraising events all on one day, and we was united through websites and through the hashtag and live stream. And every city did something locally, grassroots, nothing extravagant, but celebrities did get involved. But I said, it's about I love grassroots organizing, because you're connecting with the people on grass. I don't like bougie organizing. I can't stand it. I don't like it. I don't like the big arenas. And I just love just block parties and, and people coming together and being able to help. So I challenged every water filtration system via Google. And I said, send your water filtration system to Flint, Michigan. And let's test that. Let's test it and see if yours is the best. Wow. Brita? Nope. Pure? No, absolutely no. Oh my God, they're horrible. I'm gonna tell you guys who it was. It was a company right outside of Flint. Wow. A mom and pop company that had water filtration systems, and it's called, and you guys, if you want the best water filtration system, write this down. Reverse osmosis water filtration systems is the best. And it actually took the lead out. And we was able to raise enough money for 200 water filtration systems in the city of Flint. And today, the people are still using these water filtration systems with free replacements of their filtration, of their filter, to be able to take the lead out of their water.
That's powerful. That is so powerful.
Yeah.
But thank you for your transparency during this conversation and just all the work that you do. Just so powerful. So I'm gonna turn it over to Sarah, and we're gonna open it up for some Q&A for you all that have questions.
This tea is amazing. Who made it? You did? Did you put some sage in here? It tastes like sage. Huh? It's lavender. That's what it is.
Oh, that tastes amazing.
How many of you all know you could drink sage?
I didn't know that.
You know?
I love it.
Yes.
Awesome.
So I'm sorry, and you have a question. There's over 100 different sages. And if you ever see sage wild, do not pull it from the root. You just clip it, because if you pull it from the root, it will never be able to grow back there again. And there is, because of the fact that, especially as Indigenous people, we use sage for our ceremonies and everything like that. But sage is detoxification for the room, of course, but it's also for internal. So if you're not feeling well or whatever, you could be able to boil the sage. It has a little bitter taste to it, a little bit of lavender bitter taste, but and then you can add some honey, and then you can also take a bath in it as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Ann Lynch. I'm a staff member here in the building. Thanks for coming. I'm curious to hear your take on what's going on with the Defend the Forest movement and stopping Cop City.
Yes. I will be marching March 9th. If any of you all want to join us at the King Center. So there is so many indigenous people that are coming in that are some of my relatives and things like that for that is protesting against Cop City. Anyone know about Cop City? Some of you all. So what was it, 2020, Marcus?
Yeah.
2020, the Atlanta Council voted for the police foundation to be able to build a Cop City, which is a militarized training center city in a way, over at the Woolani, is that how you say it? Forest, which was a former prison it was a former prison and also for what was it, for slaves? It has a huge history. It's a prison farm. Yeah, and so they voted to make it happen. I believe that it was a response to a direct response to us activists, concerned citizens against police brutality and the uprising. You know, there is a quote by Dr. King, which is rioting is
The language of the unheard.
the language of the unheard. Transparency, myself, Marcus, Attorney Gerald Griggs. How many of you all went to the protests at the CNN building or marched with us? No, none of you all? Okay. But we organized that in 24 hours. We went online and said, we have to be in solidarity for George Floyd. We organize protests here all the time. We usually have a good day. We have about a good 3,000 people, you know, on a good day. But we've been doing it since I've been living out here since 2014, since Mike Brown was murdered. And it was solidarity marches happening here in Atlanta. And then there was so many local people that was being murdered by police. And so we've been protesting for Jamarian Robinson, who was shot 76?
Shot at 76, hit 59.
Times, Jamarian Robinson. So many names. And bear with me, of all these names, I can't remember right now, but it's so many. Oscar Kane, he was an activist with us. So we usually do solidarity marches during this time, but it was in the height of COVID. And I remember because it was like, everyone was like, why are you going to do this march? It's COVID. And I said, we have to be in solidarity because this is what Atlanta does. We always are in solidarity with anyone outside of Atlanta, but we also use this opportunity to bring awareness of those that's in Georgia that's been murdered by police. So that morning, that's the morning that I found out we was all marching over at the CNN building across, and then we was like, let's go to Centennial Park. So I said to Mark, I was like, I gotta go find out what's in my lungs. Found out that morning I have stage 4 lung cancer. I put it aside and I said, I gotta go down and stand with these families. We was met with over 10,000 people. Now, why was it different than any other time? It's because during COVID, we all quarantined. We were all on this. Now, there's been so many killings in Georgia and nationally, but why the reaction for George Floyd like this? It's because we were all tuned into this. We all was tunnel vision. It may have been people's first time ever seeing this. People finally cared. Oh my God, we was like 10,000 people. I was like, we only brought 5 security. And Haroon, may him rest in paradise. But with the Street Groomers organization, please look up Street Groomers. But Haroon, he was there and he was like, sis, I don't know how I'm gonna handle all of this for security. So the police was outside of Centennial Park. And I'm going to tell you all how the uprising started. Anyone know, anyone heard on the news? But I'm going to tell you from firsthand because we was there and we organized the peaceful protest. So we're at Centennial Park. This leads to Cop City. We're at Centennial Park and beautiful. Oh my God, it was children, families, people from all nationalities, races, everyone is there. And I mean, we are just like rejoicing, beautiful, fists in the air, everything. Outside of Centennial Park, the police, they have their bikes and they was pushing this elderly Black woman and pushed her to the ground with the bike. People outraged. We're in a state that everyone is like, I am tired of being oppressed, whether it was being oppressed in the house, from being quarantined, or being oppressed because of the fact that you're tired of whatever nationality you are, feeling like you are not being heard. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, rioting is the response of the unheard. Everyone was feeling unheard, whether they were white, Black, Asian, Latino, Native, gay, whatever, straight, whatever. Everyone was feeling, I'm not being heard. So who else is against that? The police was the symbol of you're not listening. They were the symbol of America, oppressors. So they were pushing this Black lady. So then everyone was about to start running. The police would start to, it was me and him on the bullhorn in front of over 10,000 people. No, stay right there. We would not allow them to turn to, they want us to riot. Everyone stood still. I could not believe, Marcus, that we had all those people just said, okay. And we told everyone, go the back way. Don't go the way where they're at across the street from the CNN building. They want us to go that way. We cleaned up the park. We did. I was out there with cleaned up the park and everything. Then everyone was outside playing, all the anti-cop songs, turning up, Nipsey, NWA, name it, okay, Kendrick, whatever. We're out there, just out there, just chanting, singing, dancing, everything. The police didn't want that to happen for so long. They used their bikes, start doing this again. As a matter of fact, one time the police pushed my son with the bike. They used the bikes as weapons. Ended up turning into an uprising. The mayor called me, or T.I. called me. I'm good friends with T.I. Him and Killer Mike go on the news. This is Wakanda. T.I. called me. He said, the mayor wants to talk to you. What can we do to stop the rioting and the burning of businesses? I said, why did it have to take her city to burn in order for her now to respond to the police that have killed Oscar Kane, Jamarian Robinson, and the list goes on and on here in Atlanta, Georgia? They will rebuild, but these families cannot revive their children. So we met. She did executive orders. 10 days later, Rashard Brooks was murdered by an officer that was trained 20,000 hours of training. He trained 20,000 hours and still murdered an unarmed man. So, Cop City was a direct response to all of that. We need more cops. The violence, the violence. Reform, what can we do? So they're building Cop City. I don't agree with Cop City. I believe there is a system that has to be corrected. I believe there is a system of friends that are police officers, good friends. As a matter of fact, one of them always takes care of my son is good friends with his children. And he works for Atlanta PD. I believe that there has to be a better solution than more militarization. here, especially here. This is going to be the blueprint. If this cop city is built, this is going to be the blueprint of a militarized system in every single city. The people that's going to be affected are Native Americans that get murdered at a higher rate than any other race because of the population by police. 3 of my cousins were murdered by police in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and still have not got justice because it's in South Dakota. There's no lawyers out there that want to be there for Native Americans. My best friend's son, Travion Davis, was shot by a Clayton County police officer, 13 years old, in the back of his head. That officer is still working in Marietta. So I don't believe more militarized police is the solution. Right now, they just put out a RICO case to the 12 forest defenders that were protesting in Atlanta. For, I believe they were like, throwing stuff or rioting, burning stuff or whatever, but they put RICO case, which means that every organizer that stands up and speaks out against Cop City, are we now a part of a organized crime organization? What does that mean? So that means that we can't be, we're going to be fearful to activate on something that we like. I don't believe in this. This is like, where's our amendment of freedom of speech? Protesting is just our mouths. Well, at least when I protest and when Marcus protests, when we're out there, we're the most that we could do is shut down a street and have you late for work. But now we'll be under a RICO, organized crime? There has to be something. I read that and I almost broke into tears because, like I said, we started this off. I was born in the movement. Because of freedom fighters, people that spoke out, is the reason why we have the Freedom of Religious Act. It's the reason why we're able to vote. It's the reason why we're able to have a choice, woman. All the women in here, all the queens in here, we're able to have a choice because we speak out with our voice. So this means that if they use this as an example, if they use us as an example with this Cop City and the RICO and all of that, that means people are going to be scared to speak out. So this is, to me, it became much bigger than a Cop City. This became about corporations, greed, power against grassroots common people like us. And it's okay if any of you all disagree with what I said, because that's what America is for. That's why we speak loud, to agree, to disagree. Yeah.
One more question.
Oh, real quick. But we are marching March 9th at 6 p.m. at the King Center. If anyone would like to join us, it will. And I say protest I don't like to say peaceful protesting, because we come in peace. Yeah. We're always peaceful, right? I don't know why that always is a crazy thing, but yeah. So, but for everyone that doesn't know, peaceful protesting.
Yeah,
March
yeah.
9th.
I did a lot of organizing back in Boston, but my name's Leah. I'm a dual degree student in the MBA program and in city and regional planning. So I'm also part of a Black lady planners group that does work like that. So definitely gonna follow up about the march. But I guess my question is, like, it's been difficult for me because trying to find like how to use our privilege, even though I don't come from much privilege, but now we have a lot more privilege to like help people. So do you have any advice for like students in the room on how they can use their access to privilege And there's like layers to it, but to help organize. I mean, the work I do is along like helping underserved communities of color and bringing economic mobility to them. But that's a loaded question.
Beautiful.
Great question.
Those that have that privilege, you're able to get in rooms that I cannot get into. You could speak for me in places that I can't speak in, that I'm not welcome in. Or people that look like me that are not welcome in, if you have that privilege. Which is an amazing thing. We need that. We need those allies. I hate the word allies because I feel like we're all connected. I don't never like that word. I don't know why. Because I think it's the native indigenous teachings in me, because we say matakiasi, which means we're all related. We're all connected. That circle, you know, I start singing Lion King. It's the circle of life. But it is. It's that circle. It's that medicine wheel. The people of the four directions.
Yeah.
We're all connected. So I don't like to say allies. I like to say we're as a family, as a nation, Oyate, a nation of people for us to. So in places that if you know you have that privilege and you're able to get in rooms and spaces and with relationships with whoever, use that privilege to be able to speak for those that do not have that. Use that privilege to be able to activate in those rooms, in those spaces with those that are not able to have that. I have celebrity friends. Oh, I use them because they got a privilege. Oh, we use them all the time, right, Marcus? Man, like I said, when T.I. called me, I said, oh, you know the mayor. Okay, well, tell her this is our demand and we need these demands met. And guess what? He made it happen. After all of the years of us protesting, shutting down we shut down every mayor's conference, everything. Anytime you saw the news, you probably saw my face or his face or Attorney Gerald Griggs, but his name is City. We was always shutting down something. So anytime, that was us. And whether you love us or you hate us, but it took T.I. after all of the years of everyone having these demands. He has a privilege. I'm very close friends with Portia. Anyone know who Portia is from the Real Housewives of Atlanta? After the march that we did at the CNN building, she DM'd me and she said, hey, my name is Portia. I'm like, I know who you are.
We are clear.
She said, use me. Use me for anything to be able to help you make change or to get justice for these families, or just use me. Oh man, we're still using her. As a matter of fact, I'm doing an event with her. I do a day retreat called Revolutionary Healing on the third Sunday of every month. It's the basis of community development is self-improvement.
That's good.
And that's what we do. The basis of community development is self-improvement. We cannot build and develop our communities until we self-improve and have a safe space to do it. And not no bigger I or little you, all of us, even me, I'm in these healing sessions and everyone is welcome. It's open, so it's therevolutionaryhealing.com. And I do it on the third Sunday of every month, and we go to different parts in Georgia. But I'm doing one with her for March 19th. But Portia, we said me, Tamika Mallory, and my son, anyone heard of Until Freedom, or another great organization to donate to as well. But Until Freedom with Breonna Taylor, and they was about to get arrested. And I said, Portia, you need to go to Louisville, go get arrested, because it's going to be on TMZ, the Shade Room, everything, you know. And that's exactly what she did.
I remember that. Yep.
So, that privilege, and if you know, and just by your resume of what you just said that you do, and what you're studying for and everything, that's a privilege within itself. So all the underserved people or marginalized people that cannot come to a Georgia Tech, you're able to speak for them. Yeah. Remember, everyone in here, all of you all have ancestors, and you all are here because of your ancestors. You all have a beautiful responsibility to carry your ancestors on your back, to do greater than what your ancestors have done. So when you walk into a room, remember you're not walking into a room by yourself. You're walking into a room with your entire family lineage behind you. As anything you say, anything you do, you have a responsibility to that lineage, that ancestral lineage, to be greater and do better than them. So remember that.
I have to cut you off,
Yes,
which
yes.
is so hard. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Lavanya, for moderating. Let's give them a round of applause.